So today I'm going to be doing a January hobonichi cousin flip through and also kind of talking about my trip to Japan this past month. So yeah, I just want to show off my journal, but this is how I decorated it. I have been collecting a lot of these stickers over towards the end of 2025, knowing I wanted to put it on the cover for this year. And here I just have some precious things like a photo booth strip of my friends and I in Korea, and then my ticket from the Extraordinary Heroes finale in Seoul from last year. Also a picture of Josh O'Connor because Knives Out or Wake Up Dead Man was a big fixation of mine towards the end of last year, and I thought this picture of him on set was funny. And attached to it I have this mini ID holder of Gunnel from Extraordinary Heroes, who will probably make a couple of appearances throughout this flip through, along with the rest of XDiz. So I mentioned I did go to Japan last month, and I got to go to the hobonichi store. It's called Tobichi, and it's in Jimbocho, which I really recommend you go to if you're visiting. It's Tokyo's book town, and even if you're not super into reading, I know that there will be something in there for you to enjoy. And at the very least, there's a lot of good curry places around there too. At the front, I repurposed this side of this calendar spread to have my vision board, just because I don't really find myself using or needing to refer to the 2027 and 2025 calendars here. So I wanted to make every page in here kind of purposeful and work for me. And here's my index, the sneak peek at February, but the way I use these spreads is mostly to actually index the daily pages. So in here I kind of wrote the highlights that I have for the month, things I have to look forward to, and then each day I kind of just do a really small summary of what I wrote about that day. And down here I have my goals, and yeah, I just find that I've been liking this more. I'm not really a huge tracker person. I think I tried that in my hobonichi weeks last year, but I don't know. It's just something about it doesn't work for me. So I kind of like using this as another way of memory keeping and to kind of set my goals each month. My January spread, compared to my hobonichi weeks last year where I was writing one thing each day, I kind of wanted this to be more functional but also have the highlights of my month. I kind of wanted to keep it less busy but still use a lot of my stationery. So I kind of blocked out, I guess, eras of the month. So I kind of wrote I was in the Bay Area for these days, and then Japan was marked by these days, and then I put fun screenings and movies that I watched, things that I was just really looking forward to. And I also am trying to read, so trying to read more. So on this side I put the stuff that I was focused on reading this month. I also want to quickly show how I repurposed the monthly spreads for 2027, because I don't think I'm going to be needing this the first 3 months of next year. So I kind of went in here and wrote a bunch of prompts for the days that I don't know what to write about. And this spread is repurposed to track the books that I'm reading this year, books that I finished, I mean, because I'm trying a thing this year where I don't use Goodreads and other similar apps to track my reading, just because I feel like I've just gone insane with how many apps there are to track everything we do. So I kind of like, doing it analog. My goal is to read 20 books, and then at 20 books, I'm going to contemplate getting a Kobo Clara because I'm tired of reading on my phone and burning my retinas. This spread is meant to just have all like the highlights and really fun moments from this year. So as you can see, I had 2 from January, but I like the theme that I did here because I kind of titled it like sweet moments and then used like this washi tape from the Snoopy chocolate store in Kyoto and then a bunch of pudding stickers around. So I look forward to seeing how this fills up over the year. And then on to the weekly spreads. I feel like this was one of the more intimidating spreads that I had to figure out how to use when I decided I wanted to use a hobonichi cousin this year. And kind of what I've settled on is, well, for one thing, I'm not gonna, use it the same from week to week, and that's okay. But I do kind of want to use it at least for both planning and a little bit of memory keeping, depending on the week that I have. So this was just me trying to ease into January, my first time using a spread like this, and so it kind of became both, like that memory keeping aspect and also planning stuff, like when I'm gonna hang out with people, when I'm, flying back to LA, things like that. And once I settled back in LA and got back into work, it kind of became more of like a way for me to time block my day at work and then the time after it. So the way I use this, because I work from home, I just have it open next to me on my desk the whole day, and then I kind of write what I want to be focusing on throughout the day. And then I also time blocked places I have to be at, like the gym and then my drum lessons, but also some fun things like when I meet up with people. And then down here, I like that I did like I'm gonna be using this area down here for to-dos every day. And then I kind of have like a weekly to-do section over here where I have things that I want to do at some point in the week, but it's not really stuff I have to slot in necessarily. But it gets fun the next week because I went to Japan, and so I had actually filled this spread out lightly way back a couple weeks before. I was just super excited to be using the hobonichi cousin, so like when I got it, I started planning my trip and blocking in, again, places I had to be, appointments, reservations. But then on my trip, because I brought this journal to Japan, at the end of each day, I kind of went back in with like this black pen and wrote about where I did, what I did, where I was, stuff like that. So yeah, another fun way to do memory keeping, especially when you're gonna be out on a trip. And again, just back to work and again doing that same thing where I'm blocking it out and trying to write about what I want to focus on, because I have a hard time like seeing the progress that I made each week with the different tasks at work. And I think this has been helping me like keep track of the things I'm working on. Same deal here. And it's been fun like using my stationery because I have so much of it that I just never really had any opportunity to use. So I kind of like using it here and keeping a theme of some sort. I also wanted to show how I set up this spread because I feel like I don't really see people talk about how they use this. I don't really know what the spread actually is supposed to be, but maybe like reflections from the previous year into the next year. But the way I'm using is to have the bingo card that I made for this year, and then I saved this side for reflections towards the end of 2026. Then now onto the daily pages. This spread, like this blank like monthly spread, it was mostly actually left blank for most of the month. But I had kind of gone in and done like this new beginning title and like the theming and stuff like that. I was trying to figure out over the course of the month how I would fill this page at the end of it, but I decided I'd put in a little picture of me and then some of my favorites and then just this reflection about how the month went. And then getting into the daily pages, I think this was really like the first year that I decided to commit to, I guess, daily journaling in like a page this big. So because I was really excited about like using this, the first few days of the year, I did a lot of setup just so I made the page look less intimidating, because honestly, like, it is intimidating to look at a blank page like this, and so I think having at least areas blocked out helped me a little bit. And that's kind of a common theme throughout the majority of this month, especially as I went to Japan and I didn't really want to bring out my stationery with me, but I'll get into that later. And I guess one thing that is maybe a drawback for, you know, laying out pages ahead of time is sometimes you have these cutesy spreads, but then maybe you consume a piece of content that isn't as cutesy or match the vibe of what you already put down. Like, I watched this documentary on this day with my sister called Evil Influencer on Netflix. It was a fascinating documentary, but as you can tell, it doesn't really fit the vibe of, you know, dogs like Pom Pom Porin and like this cute dog. Same deal here, where I laid out a page with the Sylvanian Family's notepad, but then I was talking about Wuthering Heights, which is not really the vibe of the page, but it's okay. Like, it works for me. It's my journal. It's mostly just me looking at it anyway, but I just think that's kind of funny. But yeah, I think moving into this week, you kind of see my spreads kind of take a more color coordinated vibe. So again, I was still laying out pages here because I was still trying to build the habit of daily journaling, and I think having stuff laid out helped me a lot. So I went ahead and put these like notepads in, and then the washi tape, and we just went in and filled little blurbs about my day. And actually, I think this helps build that habit, because rather than like feeling like you need to write about one huge thing from your day, or like write about, I don't know, just like fill the page with words, you can maybe like write about 4 different little things that happened. And I think that's really been working for me a lot. Same here. Towards the end of last year, for some reason, I got really into doodling and drawing again. And then I wanted to try out drawing in this hobonichi journal. So here I kind of just drew Changsu because I changed my friend's contact picture to this. And then I just saw this, I don't know what animal this was supposed to be, but I saw a picture of these animals in some snow and I thought it was really cute. Not much to say about this, but I really like the cute pink spread that I did here. And then kind of broke away from like the standard of having big blocks of text and deciding to try to use it as a to-do list, because this day was the day before I was gonna fly out to Japan and there was a lot I had to do. So I wanted to write a list of things I wanted to do while I pulled my all-nighter, because I was flying out early-ish the next day and I wanted to get on the plane and just knock out. So yeah. Yeah, I did bring this journal to Japan, as I mentioned earlier. So I don't know, it was the first time I ever committed to doing daily journaling of like on this scale while on a trip. And ahead of time, similar to like the previous pages I showed you, I did go in here and put in like these notepads. And the thing is, I kind of tried my best to theme it based on what I knew was going to be happening that day. And I also kind of did that because I didn't want to bring all my stationery with me. I want to travel as light as possible, which is kind of a crazy thing for me to say because when I travel I bring a lot of stuff, but I'm trying to, you know, be a minimalist of sorts now and just bring what I need, especially knowing that I was going to buy some stationery while I was there. I just didn't want to have to bring a lot of that, so I spent some time the days leading up to my trip just kind of putting stuff in here. So yeah, this first day, it was mostly spent on the plane, but I landed around like 5 p.m. and then I hit the ground running because I was like, I need to go shopping. I have to buy these concert shoes, these big platform shoes, and this place closes at 8 p.m. so I literally dropped my bags off at the hotel. Kind of crazy because I decided to brave Don Quixote that day. Don Quixote Shibuya, the mega Don Quixote, which if you've ever been there, you know it can be overwhelming. So for me to begin my trip like that was a little crazy. The next day I spent it in Ginza. I ate one of the greediest breakfasts that I've ever had, ever, at a place called Eggs and Things. I don't know how I came across it. I just like walking around Google Maps and seeing what they have out there. But I'll insert a picture of the pancakes that I ate. It actually was more like whipped cream with a side of pancakes, and I like whipped cream. I love stuff like that. But it actually just was too much for me. I think it'd be nice to share with people, but I was traveling alone, so yeah, this Ginza day was primarily shopping, and I mean stationary shopping to be more specific. I bought a lot of stuff there in Ginza. Like I went to Itoya, I went to Ancora to make my own fountain pen. This is what I ended up making. The theme was, I guess, like strawberry matcha, because I'm kind of getting into like putting ink of the same color into my fountain pens, which is such a slippery slope to be in. But I want to be able to put like pink and green in this pen, and this is kind of what I came up with. Yeah, but if you're visiting Japan and you like fountain pens, I recommend going to Ancora, because I don't know, something about getting to custom make a pen, and also it's made with sailor parts, which is really cool. Something about getting to make your own pen is really just cool, a very unique experience, and I really want to go back. The pen actually writes super nicely, and I've been enjoying using it. I also picked up some ink while I was there. But yeah, totally recommend it if you're already gonna be at Itoya or Loft in Ginza. But yes, that day I also went to my favorite restaurant in Tokyo called Hitsumabushi Bincho, which is Hitsumabushi, or like eel place. I freaking love unagi. It's my favorite, one of my favorite foods. So pretty much almost every time I've been to Tokyo, I've made a stop at Hitsumabushi Bincho because it's just so delicious. Another thing I did that day was I went to Cotton Club, which is this jazz club in Ginza, really close to Tokyo Station. And I thought the show that I picked was really interesting because her name is Salin and she is a Thai drummer, which, if you know anything about me, I've been playing drums for a year and a half. And I thought it was really cool that for some reason the stars aligned for me to be able to catch her show. And the interior of this place was beautiful. I low-key got barricade for her show. But yes, the next day I went to Yokohama for the X-Diz concert. X-Diz or Extraordinary Heroes. They're probably one of my favorite bands, and that's really actually who I came to see on this trip. They're a Korean band, but I've seen them in many places, and I was just like, hey, their performance kind of lines up with a long weekend in the US, so why don't I just go take this silly trip? Yeah, I began my day getting pancakes again, which it wasn't really my first option. It wouldn't be my first choice, especially when I'm in like a new country, but there really wasn't much open at 9 a.m. and I didn't really want to have a convenience store breakfast, so I went and got pancakes at another Hawaiian place. I kind of made it a McGriddle situation, actually. The concert was really fun. I did line up for merch quite early because I wanted a chance at getting the randomly signed pics. The next day was really my exploring day for Yokohama. I guess I should say I tried to explore this day, but I was just very unlucky because everywhere that I wanted to go was closed. Not like this wasn't because of my poor planning, like it just happened that like the red brick warehouse was closed for inspection that day, and that wasn't indicated on Google Maps. And then I was like, oh, that's fine, I have the air cabin, I can go see like Yokohama Bay. And then the air cabin was also closed for inspection, so just a string of unfortunate events. But I did have breakfast in Chinatown. Chinatown is one of those things that you do when you go to Yokohama, and I ate some congee and then had the Chinese donuts, which I was really looking forward to. And then of course, day 2 of the concert, because I went both days. Like, I already flew all this away, I might as well go both days. And it was really fun because it was Galen's birthday and they brought out a cake for him, and it was just so fun to be able to celebrate his birthday with him in person. Next day, I went back to Tokyo. I slept in a bit and then took the train back. But I wanted this day to be a more chill day because honestly, like the last couple days had been super intense. I started out by going to a stationery store, or not really stationery, but like cute, trinkety kind of store by Ueno, which I really recommend. And then one of my goals on this trip was to buy like cute plates and stuff for Japanese breakfasts. So I went to Kappabashi Street and I bought some plates and things like that, a tray. I've been having fun with the Japanese breakfast. Another interest of mine is like making leather journals. So my friend and I wanted to go see what, I don't know, the leather shopping was like. I did buy some leather for a project I wanted to do, and then I was also making a leather journal for my friend. We also went to this fried sandwich place that has been on my list, and honestly it was good. I got like this sweet potato one, but man, it kind of ruined me and my friend's appetite, and so we just headed back to our like hotel rooms. And I don't know, something about like the fried nature of it and like the excessive whipped cream, I don't know why, I just had so much whipped cream on this trip. It just ruined our appetite for the day, and we had to like go back to our hotel rooms and just sleep it off. The next day I found, I think, what I would consider maybe one of my new favorite neighborhoods that I want to add to like my rotation of places I have to visit each time I go to Tokyo. And that's Jimbocho, which is, I mentioned earlier, it's Tokyo's like book town, and there's just like streets upon streets of bookstores, and they're like sometimes themed based on specific interests. So some of them I found was like one entirely about like music and pop culture, just like aisles and aisles of magazines about those things. And then I saw like a fashion / art related bookstore, and yeah, I don't know, it was a really cool place. But there are also a lot of stationery stores. So one of them was Bunporo, which is like a stationery / art store, but there were a lot of really cool things in there, a lot of like cat related stuff as well. And Jimbocho is also a place where there's a lot of cool cafes, but also restaurants selling curry. And I love curry, so I was like, I need to eat that while I'm here. I also picked up like some cool mechanical colored pencil thingy. Like I said, I've been really into drawing a lot lately, especially on the go, and I think colored pencil has always been one of my favorite mediums, but I don't want to always bring a bunch of colored pencils with me wherever I go, and this was kind of like an answer to all my prayers in a way. Just, you have all these like different colored leads. I went to the Tobichi store. I really am a big hobonichi girl. I think this year I went crazy. I have the cousin, I have the 5-year, I have the weeks. They all serve different purposes, but I love them all dearly, so it was just heaven getting to be in the Tobichi store. And I feel like if you're like me, you must go to that store because it's just amazing. I had to go to Harajuku because I wanted to get a gift for my sister, and I felt like I'd be able to find it there at this place called La Forêt, which is just floors upon floors of amazing J fashion. I really recommend you go there if you want to buy clothes because I mean it's like similar-ish to Shibuya 109, but maybe like a less overwhelming version of it, and I feel like there's somewhat higher quality stuff there. So just take that into account. Like things might be a little bit more pricey there, but I think it's really fun to just walk around there. I know people usually go to Takeshita Street, Takeshita Dori, which is that really like busy kind of like alleyway with like all those different stores. But if you want to see like middle to high-end brands, I recommend going to La Forêt, which is really close by that street everybody goes to. Yeah, I went to the Yosuke shop because I wanted another pair of really tall platform shoes. The next day I went to Ikebukuro, which is another place that I tend to go to every time I'm in Japan, or I mean in Tokyo at least. But I started my day by doing a chopstick making class in Shinjuku because I feel like it's really easy to just go to Japan and like shop from sun up to sundown, and I realized that, I don't know, I think it's nice to try to schedule in things that don't revolve around shopping all the time and maybe are more about making things. And I think on previous trips, other places, I've really loved just making a souvenir and like having that as a memory of the time I spent there, like people that I met, stuff like that. I've done like perfume making classes, and then this time I was like, I really am into like Japanese breakfast, so why don't I make something that I can use while I eat those things, right? So I wanted to do this chopstick making class. It was a lot of fun. I think I picked a difficult kind of wood to work with. I was really having a hard time with the wood, but I'm happy with the result. And it was really cool because it was on the top floor of a building, so it had a really cool view of Shinjuku. But yeah, I went to Ikebukuro, mostly Sunshine City, because I love that place. I love gachapon, and it has the world's largest gachapon store, and that's what I went for. Then I got a little bit tired, and I went to a cafe called Takase. It was a really cool experience, very like old retro vibes, but this sounds stupid because like obviously I'm in Japan, but it was maybe one of the times on that trip where I walked in and was like, wow, everyone is Japanese here and I'm the only tourist. The whole menu is in Japanese, but it's popping in here. And I feel like when you go into a place like that, it can be intimidating, but you just know you're gonna have a good time when you feel a little bit uncomfortable because you don't know what's on the menu exactly. But yeah, I had a good time there. The signal in there was very poor, so I just spent some time sketching and doodling to pass the time. I got this really delicious like pudding coffee parfait because I've never actually indulged in one of those, at least by myself, and I wanted a sweet treat after bopping around Ikebukuro, which by the way was super busy that day. Like, I do recommend going to Ikebukuro, but maybe not on a weekend. Yeah, after that I kind of went back to my hotel. I rested a bit because I was exhausted, and I had a reservation at a place called Manten, which was a 26-course omakase place. It was really delicious. It was 8,800 yen, but I think it was worth it for the experience. It also was my first time doing an omakase in Japan. The next day, I finally got to go to Mori Art Museum, which is a museum, like a modern art museum that I've been wanting to go to in Tokyo for so long. But for some reason, every time I'm in Tokyo, it's like they're going through like an exhibition change, so it's closed because There's like no, I think, permanent collection. It's just entirely like exhibits. The concept or like the theme of the exhibition, it was called What Passes is Time, We Are Eternal, and it was focused on the passage of time and how different artists were interpreting that, I think. Also, it was really cool because at the top of this building where Mori Art Museum is, there's a really amazing view of Tokyo. You do have to pay extra to go access it. I have been to other like viewpoints in Tokyo, like what is it called? Shibuya Sky, Tokyo Tower. But my hot take is that the best viewing experience I've had of the city, it was at Tokyo, what's it called? Yeah, Tokyo City View, because it's like less crowded and you can actually see stuff. Like if you go to Tokyo Tower sometimes, if it's like very cloudy day, you get up there and you're like, I can't see anything, but I'm very high up in Tokyo right now, and that's cool. But yes, I recommend Tokyo City View if you're visiting. After that, my friend and I met up with my friend at a place called Kinka, which was a really cool, yummy, mostly sushi place. I'm gonna insert a picture of what we ate. I recommend it. It's somewhat close to Mori Art Museum. I know there's a lot of other good food places there, and I'd love to try them, but this is where I went. And then after that, because it was my last full day in Japan, I went to Shibuya for last minute shopping, and then went home and packed my bags. The next day, I had a late flight leaving Japan, so I had some time to kill. I tried to go to Ueno for, if you've seen Marty Supreme, you know, like the final match between him and Endo happens in Japan, and they actually did film that in Ueno. I tried to go like see it, but I think that stage is only accessible when there's events happening. So then I was like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna go to Ochanomizu, which is a guitar street in Tokyo, which is just similar to Jimbocho, but it's just like streets upon streets of guitar stores. So I wanted to buy a guitar strap from a Japanese brand, and I was able to find it there. Had my last meal again in Jimbocho. I had curry again at this really cool cafe called Mafumi, and I recommend it a lot. It's very, I don't know, I feel like I was transported to a different world, and I feel like if you're visiting like Tokyo, you should really try to find gems like this, because it makes me realize why I like to travel. Unfortunately, I got sick coming back. I tend to get sick when I travel, but I think it was a combination of being in that very cold climate. It wasn't actually that cold, but like it was cold for me. And then coming back to LA where it was like 70s temperature, I think my body just could not handle that. This day, I went to an advanced screening of Kokuho. The movie is about this guy that really immerses himself in the world of kabuki performances. I thought it was good. I just did not realize the movie was going to be 2.5 hours long. This day, I didn't really have much to write about, so I filled most of it with just a drawing of like a reference image I found on Pinterest. This Friday, I went to watch 28 Years Later, Bowen Temple. I think this is maybe my second favorite movie out of that whole franchise. And just to prove that you really can write about anything in your daily journal, I was writing about miso soup on this day because I was, for some reason, discovering at the tender age of 25 how good miso soup is for breakfast. I mentioned earlier that I was sick, and I feel like this actually did heal me a little bit. So yeah, I wrote about trying to finish Wuthering Heights, because you'll see, but I went to the premiere a few days after this, which was a lot of fun, and I was working really hard to try to finish the book before I went. And again, I did not know how else to fill the space, and I was really realizing I love drawing, so I just watched the More Than I Like video, and I was like pausing at random times and doing quick little figure sketches just to exercise that part of my brain. I got to briefly meet up with my sister because I had to give her stuff from Japan. She was visiting LA on a trip with friends. I went to a cafe called Olive and James that I've been wanting to go to for a while, And I ended up spending $32 on a cheesecake, croissant, and matcha, which is just the most LA thing, but honestly, everything was really good. I don't know if I'd go back again, maybe just for a matcha, but I got in a lot of like fun sketch work that day. I did grocery shopping and did some intense meal prep for the week. Yeah, I decided this week to whip out my thermal printer because I wanted to try new spreads. At this point, I was not really doing like the layout in advance. I wanted to try to test myself and try to do stuff that didn't rely on notepads. I finished Wuthering Heights this day, thankfully, because the next day was the Wuthering Heights premiere, and that was a lot of fun. I did the event through 1 iota. It was a very unserious experience because we were like on the red carpet, but we weren't on the red carpet, and we also weren't sure if we were going to actually get to go into the screening, which is what I really came for. But I was lucky enough to make it into the screening. This sounds horrible, but like if you go into the movie without the expectation that it's going to be like accurate to the book, then I think it's actually a pretty good time, and I'm surprised at how they managed to turn it into a love story despite all the how do you say that word? The depravity of the original source material. I wrote about my drum lesson and how rough it was. Like I had not touched a drum set, I think, for over 2 weeks at this point. Man, it was rough. On this day, I got a package from my friend, Jana. They bought me some really amazing things while they were in Japan, and I don't know, they just know me so well, and I was really excited to get everything in the mail. Last day of the month, I met up with some friends and we got some breakfast at Highly Likely up in Highland Park. Guys, this this waffle, chicken and waffles, was so good. It was a black sesame waffle, and then the chicken was just like, it was like the best thing I've ever had. Man, it was really good. And then I went to the puppet show at Bob Baker Marionette Theater, which if you're looking for something to do in LA, I recommend going to this marionette theater because it's really cool. That's sort of all for January. Hopefully I can make these monthly flip throughs every month, but I kind of wanted to just show like how I built my habit of daily journaling this month and the different ways I was using my journal. But yeah, see you in the next video.